For APA Part 3, I thought it would be important to focus just on references and how to format them and build that page. So number one, it's really important that you know to go and use OWL Purdue. Okay, OWL stands for Online Writing Lab. It's from Purdue, and they have one of the best reference sources online for you to use to know how to build your references. Okay. Number two, do not use a citation generator. I know that it's right there and it's easy, but the thing is you have to know what are the right things to put in and what are the things to leave out. And even still, most of them get some piece of it wrong. So I recommend that you, every time you go to write a paper, you pull up OWL Purdue and you get comfortable with that website and you just handwrite those references every time. It really doesn't take any longer than using the citation generator, truly. You always have to remember that your references have to have a hanging indent. And if you remember when I talked about that in APA Part 1, you would highlight your reference and again make sure it is double spaced and then go to paragraph in Word, and hanging indent is one of your options. And then they always have to be in alphabetical order according to that author's name, whatever's there at the beginning, okay? So let's look through some examples that I've provided for you. All right, so this first one here, Edwards, all right? If you look, these are all double spaced. They're a hanging indent, which means this one is left aligned, but this one comes in on the second line. Okay, they're in alphabetical order, E, M, A, M, C, not by order of use in the paper. Note that you still have the running head, you still have your page number, references is centered and bolded, and there's no extra spaces. Okay, so this source by Edwards is a journal. And the way that I know it's a journal is because number one, I have a year, month, and date. Books typically just have a year, not always, okay, but that's one indicator, so that it's a journal or a magazine or something similar, okay. Number two, the way I know that it's a journal is this is italicized. This is the name of the journal, Easy Sociology. I have a capital here and a capital here with a comma. Then this 7 is also italicized. And I know this is one of those weird nuance things. It's italicized, but this 1 with the parentheses is not. I know you can't, it doesn't really show well on this PowerPoint, but it's not supposed to be italicized, okay? So these are issue numbers and volume numbers, okay? So when we look at journal articles, you have issue 1, volume 1, issue 12. And so volume 1 might have been for the year 2020. And issue 12 would have been the 12th issue they put out. That's probably December or something like that, okay? So that's typically how they do all of that when it comes to journals. Now, the last part that you can see on that line is 12 to 14. Those are the pages where you can find the article. So again, the idea here is that I could go to this journal article and know that I need to pull volume 7, issue 1, and go to page 12, and there's the article, okay? And again, OWL Purdue tells you what order and what things to include, so you need to use that. All right, so when we look at the authors, it's Edwards, comma, M. So no, if we had a middle initial, it would be M.A. space. And then when you look at the title, note the capitalizations. We capitalize the very first word, but then none of the others are capitalized until we got to the author name, and that's just kind of a standard. That one's okay, right? But when we look at these titles, you only capitalize the first word here. And then if there was a semicolon somewhere, you would capitalize the first word after the semicolon. All right, so now I know that I'm looking for the journal Easy Sociology for the article, The Cultural Value of the Work of J.K. Rowling, and how I would find it is through this, and this is my author. So that gives me, the reader, a chance to go and find all the cool things you talked about. So looking at source number 2, let me erase all of these real quick. Looking at source number 2, again, we have another journal, Mahajan, S period. And this one didn't have a month and day, so it's okay that I only have the year. And then again, how has J.K. Rowling transformed fantasy literature? Note that this is not italicized, and I only capitalized the first word, but none of the others except for the name. Okay, this is italicized. It is the magazine's name, and I know it's on page 1 through 3. Now, this next one is a website. So I put this together for you. All right. It was written by G. McIntyre in 2009. And so this is what I was talking about with the colon and semicolon. Let me get rid of that real quick. Harry Potter, colon, the is capitalized. Story that changed the world. Now, this is from Life magazine, so that is italicized, and it's online. So here is the link. Note that I didn't write retrieved from or retrieved on. We don't do that. All right, it's just here's the link. And since I have an author, it's organized by the author's name. But sometimes these magazines or online content will not have an author, in which case we would have organized this by the magazine's name of Life. Okay, and so Life would have gone down here instead. All right, and then this would have been changed in a different order because L comes before M. Now, I only did a couple of options. I didn't do any of the books. Books are really easy to do. You can find those on OWL Purdue. Let's talk about a couple other nuancy things that tend to pop up. Okay, so we talked about if you don't have an author's name and you're looking at a website. So let's say we're talking about an article from the American Heart Association, and there's no author. American Heart Association would be my author. And so that source would end up here. Okay. Sometimes you don't have a date on something you're looking at. And so we fill that in with N dot D dot. No date. So we would replace it with that. If you were to have two articles from the same author and the same year, then they get labeled A and B in the year. 2023A, very bad at this, A, and your second article would be 2023B. Okay, that's really atypical, but it could happen. And let's see if there's anything else I can think of right now. Books are very straightforward. Honestly, journal articles are pretty straightforward. Oh, that's what I was going to share. So one more thing. When you're referencing these, you want to find the original source. So I don't want a link to PubMed that shows the name of the article. I need you, whatever you send me, I should be able to get directly to the source. Okay? And so that's what you're referencing is the real, true source, not some website where they tell you it's at the library. So if you can't get to the original source, you need to find a different way to get there. Now, MSSU's library is wonderful, and they have a lot of this stuff. So if you're Googling on the internet and you come across an article and you're struggling to get to the main article, try going to MSSU's library and searching for that again. If you log in with your student account, there's a lot of databases you'll get access to, and then you can get to the main source. So I think for now that kind of covers the majority of what you need to know about references, and we'll move on to APA Part 4.